All right, hi everybody. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I hope everybody's nice and caffeinated. It's early, first session, so everybody's still got some energy. We are going to do a really comprehensive overview of the Clean Heat program. We're gonna do like a high-level overview on like how it started, kind of how we've been doing over the last couple years, and then walk through how to be a PC, the application process, all of the documentation you need to provide us, what is eligible, what's not eligible, what are the incentives, and then QA/QC, and then at the end a look on what's new and what's changing in the future. And we'll have a couple stops for questions because this is a pretty long session. So the New York Clean Heat program spun out of the CLCPA in 2019. New York has some pretty massive emissions reductions targets, and this is a big piece of it. Specifically, the new efficiency New York, we all speak up a little louder. Yeah. Okay, sorry. The NENI program, where there is 185 tera BTU of end-use savings by 25, and we are a big part of that in the Clean Heat program. So the 2020 order kicked us off. It's a statewide framework across all of the electric utilities in the state. So you've got National Grid, Con Ed, NYSEG and RG&E, Central Hudson, and Orange and Rockland, and we're all working together with NYSERDA to run a heat pump incentive program. We have a target of 3.5 tera BTU of energy savings by end of year 2025. I'd say we're doing pretty well. We have total savings of more than 4.5 tera BTU. And we've done more than 60,000 heat pump projects. We haven't added our 2024 data. That's coming soon. But prior to that, we had 59,000 projects, and we spent $800 million on heat pump incentives. You can see each year we're growing and working to scale the program. We're steadily improving year over year. It's run by the Joint Management Committee and NYSERDA. Ray is the co-chair of the utility side of the program. We publish the program documents, including our program manual. I'm sure everybody's read all 120 pages of it. And then we publish our QA/QC documents. And then we also have periodic opportunities for market participants and contractors to give us feedback, not counting today. We also file our annual report documents so that all stakeholders can see how we're doing. We have our 2024 annual report due in April. So look forward to that to see the next round of numbers. All right.
And I'll take it from there. Sean Dooley, NYSEG RG&E Clean Heat Program Manager. So first I want to walk you through how to become a participating contractor in the program. Are there any contractors here that aren't participating and are interested in learning about this? Read the room a little bit. All right. I'll still take you through how to become a participating contractor. We'll go a little quicker then. So these are the categories, right? So you can be an installer, a designer, or a driller, and each respective technology has a different process that you would need to participate. So for the installer side of it, you would be responsible for the heat pump install itself. You could submit the rebate applications, and you are responsible for the QA/QC and meeting program eligibility. As you can see, you can be an air source heat pump installer, air to water heat pump installer, or a ground source heat pump installer. We also have the designer category. These are part of the job team, but they're not physically installing the equipment. If you're a designer, you can still submit projects, but the installation must be done by a participating contractor in order to be in the Clean Heat program. And we also have the drillers. This is specific to ground source heat pump program projects. If you are a driller in the program, you cannot submit applications. That must be done by the designer or the installer. but you can still participate in the program and work on ground source heat pump projects. And some additional documentation each utility has their own participating contractor agreement that would need to be completed by the contractor. And this is a very in-depth look at what specific documents you would need. So kind of a catch-all, the early documents are the application for a participating contractor, certificate of insurance, and the W-9. And we also have an assortment of different certificates and licensing that you would need for each category. This is all found in the program manual as well. So if you do decide you want to participate in the program, we can walk you through that. And a lot of the same here. This is ground source heat pump specific. So one of the main requirements is the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association certificate. That's IGSHPA, if we refer to it again. And some additional documentation that would be required to participate as a contractor for each of the categories I just walked through. We do separate projects between custom and prescriptive. Anything over 300,000 BTU per hour would be a custom project. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. The incentive category is a little different for each utility and the application process itself. So that does it for this. And just 3 quick steps on how to enroll in the program as a contractor. We have a application online, and we also work with ICF as our implementation contractor, and we can walk you through any steps there as well. So just an easy 1, 2, 3. We also have our contractor education website, Clean Heat Connect, and this is helpful even if you're not a contractor and you're just interested in the program or heat pumps itself. There's so many different documents on performance, heat pump performance, best practices, QA/QC, program-related documents as well, videos, documents, all sorts of things. So definitely take a look. The website's right here, and we'll share it after this as well. And another look at Clean Heat Connect. You can actually see all the different kind of categories that the documents live in. Some very specific to the program, others maybe not. Can circulate those as needed. So good website, good resource. And this is our participating contractor and industry partners webinar. These are held quarterly. They provide important information on the program, programmatic updates, anything needed. So our next one I think is March 13th. Don't quote me on that. It's later in the slides as well. Right. So you can sign up for this, and we share all sorts of information on the program. And now I'll take you through the application process from a contractor's point of view. So this is quick prescriptive projects. If you're a contractor, we have a variety of different prescriptive categories, 2A, 2B. These will all make more sense once we show the actual chart with what the categories are. So step 1 is become a participating contractor. Step 2 would be verify eligibility. So if you're the contractor, you want to verify that the equipment itself would qualify for the program. And the customer would qualify depending on electric utility. That's how we classify our participants, the customers. Step 3 would be to install the equipment itself. This happens after you've obviously vetted the equipment, make sure it's the correct load size for the home. And once the equipment is installed, you have 60 days to submit the application package. That's all the required documents, and that has to take place 60 days after the install.
Business days or calendar days?
I think it's calendar days. Yep. So 60 calendar days. The application itself would move to inactive status if it started and not finished within 45 days. But it can be removed from inactive status at any time. So once the entire suite of documents are submitted online, the application enters application review, where the team takes a look at it, makes sure all the documents are in line, fits the program guidelines, and hopefully it gets approved. Once approved, the contractor would receive the incentive payment, and the incentive payment goes directly to the contractor, and the contractor would then pass that off to the customer. It is required in the program to pass the entire rebate off to the customer. And there is also a contractor bonus. Depending on the category, it's a different amount, but it's all listed in our program manual. We'll have it later on as well. And last, we have a QA/QC process that happens after the project is installed. There's a few steps and different pieces of the QA/QC process. And again, hate to keep saying it, we'll get to it later on in the presentation. So that's the prescriptive process. These are projects less than 300,000 BTU per hour. Go ahead.
You said a minute ago that the contractor was responsible to pass the entire incentive back to the homeowner.
Yep.
And yet there's a contractor bonus. How does that work out? Then?
The contractor bonus the contractor gets to keep the contractor bonus piece of it, and then the remaining incentive goes directly to the customer. Yeah. So next,
Is there any program stipulations that would not allow a contractor to pass that incentive on to the customer if they wanted to?
I don't think so, no. Yeah, it has to be passed on.
Okay.
And now we have the custom process. These are larger projects, typically 300,000 BTU per hour or larger. So think warehouses, multifamily, any commercial sites really. So step 1 through 3 are the same, right? Become a participating contractor, verify eligibility. Equipment eligibility is a little bit different for custom than prescriptive, but same deal. Make sure the equipment is eligible before submitting the application package. Once that's all submitted, everything looks good, we begin our pre-inspection process. This is done between our implementation team and the building owner and the contractor. So we schedule a pre-inspection, make sure everything matches what's in the application package. Next is a technical review. This is a desk review, just making sure that there's all the baselines match what was in the pre-inspection doc and the project application documents. And once that's completed, everything matches, all baselines align. That's when you'll receive your preliminary incentive offer letter, your PIOL. This outlines the incentive amount, the savings you're expected to generate, timelines when the project's going to be completed, and you can begin work. Break ground on the heat pump installs. So once everything's installed, step 7, we'll do a post-inspection. That would be step 8. We'll come in and make sure that everything that's in your PIOL that you were issued from the utility matches the application and matches what was actually installed. Sometimes we'll see one unit isn't installed that matches the PIOL, so that would reduce the incentive amount depending on what actually gets installed on site. And step 9 is the final technical review. This is, again, just to verify all the work that has been done matches all the documents. And step 10, final incentive payment. This is when you will receive your money for the install. It can go directly to the contractor or a third party. And step 11, QA/QC is again. So same process there as well. And that's the application process. And just a quick look at the online intake tool. This is solely for the contractors. Contractors submit all applications on an online intake tool. There's no longer paper applications. It's all done online. And you can track your status, check in, make sure it's approved, things like that. So, and that is it for me.
All right, take it away.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. All right, let's do it. I'm at a bit of a tough angle here, but
Sorry.
we'll manage. And okay, good, you got it. So I'm going to get into a little bit on the actual project application process as well. So some of it was touched on in the previous slides here, but as far as required documents go, every project that receives a rebate must include a Manual J report, the full report, not just a summary, to be submitted along with the project, again, to ensure that the system being installed is the proper load capacity needed in order to properly heat and cool the home or business space. So that is required along with NEEP certificates for the equipment being installed in the space as well. All equipment must be NEEP listed on the product list. They're all rated at 5 degrees. Excuse me. If the design temperature for the area is below 5 degrees, you may require some additional manufacturing performance charts for that equipment as well. And I think one thing just to note, which you can't really see on these slides or in this presentation, but the actual application portal itself does a really good job of just taking you step by step through this. It's well done and pretty seamless in that regard as well, as far as getting what you need to be submitted properly in order to get the rebate. So just wanted to note that as well. The acknowledgement form from customers, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Can the Manual J be a block load, or is that be room by room, or what's the specification of the Manual J?
I believe it should be room by room. So what we'll get into, I think a bit later, as Sean said a few times, right, is some of the requirements, right? So in order to get the rebate under clean heat, has to meet the full load of the home and space. There is no partial load category anymore, and so the system layout and such is part of that.
We accept block load.
You do accept block load. Okay, good. Yeah, there you go. So
I would, yeah, typically a block load room by room, you should have, your main load is gonna come out similar, but if you are designed for design purposes, a lot of times you need to do that.
Right.
Room by room to get what the required CFM per room is, but in terms of meeting the program eligibility, as long as you do a block load, show that the installed heat pump meets 100 to 120% of the utility load, so, you'll be program.
But don't think that a block load is a shortcut. If you're doing a block load just to
Yeah,
save yourself time and not doing an accurate job, that's not what we're looking for.
trying to get there in so many words, but yeah. So, and so, yeah, some of the other forms required the acknowledgement form signed by the customer, just noting that they understand the rebate that they are set to receive, what's being installed, and so forth. That must be signed by the customer. As mentioned before, the invoice itself showing that if it is an instant rebate, that the rebate amount is being deducted from the cost to the customer. There are two pathways. You can also just request that a check be sent to the customer after the fact, and a separate check for the contractor bonus to the contractor once the project is accepted in the program. That is also an option, so you do have the ability to do either or there, depending on preference. But either way, the invoice must be submitted along with that acknowledgement form that the customer understands, again, what they're signing up for, what they're paying for, etc. The nameplate installation photos of the equipment, just to make sure that it matches the application and is installed as applied for. If you are decommissioning the legacy fossil fuel system, so that is a pathway within the program where you can fully remove or cap the legacy fossil fuel system, natural gas or fuel oil and such, there is a decommissioning checklist that you have to go through as well. So if you are doing that, you will have to submit that checklist as well, which again takes you step by step as to what needs to be done as far as capping lines or removing the legacy system. And you'll need photos, obviously, of before and after to show that the legacy system was removed from that space. And so again, if you take that pathway, the tool itself, the portal, will take you step by step through that pretty seamlessly. So. And then integrated controls as well. If you are doing integrated controls, just photos of the controls and the equipment that is listed or signed up for those controls as well. So just a note there. I think we can go on to the next slide here. So Manual J, a lot of words, a lot of text on this slide. We kind of just touched on it a little bit here, but again, the Manual J is needed and necessary just to confirm that the system being installed is properly sized and fit for the space that it is going into. So that is why it is required for all projects. We don't want any issues with comfort or efficiency down the line and effectiveness because the system was either over or undersized due to haphazard sizing on the upfront. So that is required for all projects under the program. Yep, go.
Is there a margin? For instance, maybe you have a 5 or 6 ton system, and the system, the calculations show that you're short 500 BTUs. Would you make the contractor bump that up another ton to compensate for that?
So you're jumping a little bit ahead. I think it's a couple of slides, but the range for the full load rebate is 100% to 120%. So if you go a little bit over because of layout needed, then that's okay. If it's 110%, 112%, that's fine. For ground source measures in particular, sometimes just again based on the nature of that, if the system is, say you're at 90%, for example, you can supplement that with an air source mini split or something, or supplemental heating for the additional 10%, and also still get the full load rebate for that pathway as well. if because of, every now and again, there's a lot of projects in the program, if there's, some funky layouts or what have you, and the system is sized at 123 or 128%, we do require some additional detail as to why, and you can be granted an exception because we understand that there's always a little bit of variance with this, but typically, for the most part, it'll fall between that 100% and 120% range for the full load rebate.
So in other words, there's a margin for oversizing, but not even slightly undersizing.
Right. If you're very slightly, like 99%, I mean, we can discuss, but typically we prefer that you go a little bit over than a little bit under.
Okay.
Yeah, I would only add, Ray, the design temperature variance often does accommodate small percentages below 100%. So we allow plus or minus 5 degrees on the design temperature. So if you're like within 1%, you'd probably rather see the design temperature adjusted than like the next size system installed. It's really case by case stuff.
Yep. Go ahead.
You mentioned, you manage J, so you don't have comfort issues yet. When you size it for heating load, a typical home in upstate New York, you might have a 2-ton air conditioning load, but a 5-ton heating load. And when you size for the heating, you're absolutely going to have comfort issues either with ductwork's not sized properly or you're oversizing. What do you do in those instances?
So, Sean, you're about to say something because you're about to jump right in there with some of the, yeah.
6,000 BTU heating load and a 2 or 2.5 ton cooling. You're sizing for the heating, so they got a 5-ton heat pump and a 2-ton air conditioning house.
Yeah.
We take it case by case if that comes up. It's not frequent, right? I mean, a lot of the times it's.
And
It's absolutely free.
heat pumps are sized at using the max heating capacity.
Yeah.
All of these are variable. Heat pumps are variable speed, so they have a minimum cooling. So when you're monitoring the cooling side, you have to look at what the minimum cooling capacity is to determine if you're really oversized on the cooling side. So you're gonna have a wider range in terms of the cooling max and the cooling min.
You kind of have to go back to the basics of air sealing and insulating. If you have a really well insulated house, cooling is not going to be that much of a problem. Because that heat's not going to really come through as much from the outside.
Yeah. Nope, absolutely. So I don't think the police like that question, by the way. But yeah, duly noted. One thing I just want, sorry, Sam, if you wanted to go back just that slide briefly. Again, we do have some trainings available on Manual J as well, as you see here. So Amply, Cool Calc, and WriteSoft are available for those looking for some of those training sessions, or if you are a contractor looking to sign up and want to take these trainings, that is available as well. So we do have those linked in our resources pages.
So you said WriteSoft and what else?
Right there to the left, Cool Calc and Amply there. I don't have a good angle, but yeah, on the left side there towards the bottom. Yeah, I'm a bit cut off.
Oh, cool.
Yep, so I think I touched on this on the previous slide as well, but all equipment must be NEEP listed to be eligible for the rebates. The 5-degree max heating capacity is what determines that full load incentive amount. And so again, if you're doing a full load project there, again, it's going to be based on, it has to be sized within that 100 to 120% heat load capacity there. And the incentives, as we'll get to, are determined on a $1 per 10,000 BTU basis of capacity. They vary a bit by utility, but the incentive structure is the same. And that's, again, determined based off of that max heating capacity. So just noting here that the equipment must be NEEP listed to be eligible. So just some additional documentation here. We don't have to spend too much time on this, but expanded manufacturer heating charts or system capacity diagrams may be required if the outdoor design temperature is below 5 degrees. Just some additional documentation that you may need, which again is sort of laid out on the portal as well. The prescriptive calculator, so that's also housed on the resources page, and that will verify based on the equipment listed and input there that it does meet the requirements for the actual full load rebate. It'll confirm that the design temperature is accurate based on the zip code of the install, the location of the install. And so it'll calculate again, based on the manual J design temp, it'll give you the capacity and confirm those incentive amounts. One thing as well that you want to check for is the required snow depth for the zip code of the install as well. There's different snow depth requirements based on location, and that is a part of the ongoing QA process for these projects as well. Just an example of the customer acknowledgement form. One thing I didn't mention previously is they are utility specific. So depending on where you do work, whether you have some overlapping territories, you just have to make sure that you provide the proper utility acknowledgement form for the customer to sign. Each of us have slightly different, each of us utilities that is, has a slightly different form that must be included, but by and large, the process is the same. And then again, copy of the invoice, as mentioned before. If you are providing that rebate as sort of an instant discount, it must be listed clearly on the invoice as a deduction from the full cost of the project. And if not, again, you can elect to just have two separate checks sent out after the fact to you, the contractor, for your bonus, and then the customer for their portion of the rebate as well. Photos that must be included with the application. So as mentioned before, nameplate photo that shows the model and serial number of the units being installed. Again, making sure that it matches what is on the application, along with a quote unquote long shot photo of the system installed from a few steps back, confirming proper depth and location for the install as well. Decommissioning, touched on it earlier as well, but just an example of some photos there. If you are decommissioning the legacy fuel system, you want some before photos of that system in place, along with the after, if you will, showing that the fuel lines are capped or the system itself is completely removed from that space. That will need to be included on the application. And then, so this is just an example of the decommissioning checklist that will be included on that application. This is the form that shows you step by step based on the system being decommissioned and whether or not it's being fully removed or lines are being capped, what needs to be done. You'll just submit that with the application as well. And then lastly, just photos for integrated controls, just a photo of the thermostat and controls included, along with the units that are active on the application of those controls to confirm that what was installed is a part of that system. Sorry, did you get that in time?
No.
Go right ahead.
What's like the best one of your websites to go to find like the checklist of all the forms we need?
Clean Heat Connect would be a good place to start.
Yep.
All right, I'm on it. Now what?
Oh, I almost feel like we
Like
could.
I'm trying to find the prescriptive, and
Or the resources.
I've found it before, but it's usually after about 2.5 hours, 3 cups of coffee, and a lot of F-bombs.
So yeah, we're gonna go back to we showed the page briefly here for a second. We'll go back there quickly.
I think actually this one is the best one.
Yeah.
For what you're describing.
Right. So if you'll pull this up, if you want the prescriptive, go to the air source heat pump section.
Do you have to be in the program and have a login and password for this?
No.
Okay.
If you do have a login for the online portal, the files are also hosted there.
Mhm.
But I agree this resources website is probably best. For like comprehensive info.
Is there any thought of going back to non-whole house systems? You know,
It's been discussed in the current standing of the program. It's running through the end of this year. So we don't know what 2026 and beyond is going to look like for the Clean Heat program, what it's going to entail. We've discussed it, and it's full load for now, and we'll see what the order says when it comes out.
But yeah, we are looking into what can we do outside of whole home electrification for the future.
Yeah, because I think partial rebates were part of the program for the first handful of years. I think it got discontinued in 2023. So yeah, we're exploring ways to help.
Am I passing this back to you, or is it you?
I'll take the next person.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're down a person, so
Yeah.
trying to figure out the flow.
Oh, was this supposed to be me still?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's pretty.
Sure. So yeah, program eligibility. So eligible equipment types listed here: central air source heat pumps, ductless units as well, air to water heat pumps, commercial unitary, air source VRFs, PTHPs as well, along with single package. Sorry, my angle's cut off here as well, but the single package vertical heat pumps as well. These are all the different air source heat pump equipments eligible under the program. I think the next slide goes into geothermal, which is much of the same. I can hardly see those colors from this angle, especially, but open loop, closed loop, direct exchange. Off the top of my head here, some console and non-console types, and whatever the last one is. The VRF, ground source VRFs as well. So similar pathways there, but for air source and geothermal, depending on the application. So. Heat pump water. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have been one to do these. UEF rated heat pump water heaters as well. Commercial COPH rated water heaters, water to water heat pumps, systems listed in the NEEP commercial, multifamily pathways as well. I'm going to count on my colleagues here to do the last two.
Air to water heat pumps
Yeah.
and heat recovery chillers and heat pump chillers through the custom program.
Yep. So
sorry about that.
Looked much better when we were prepping on the screen.
Yeah.
I'll take
So again, yeah, just going through all the equipment, the eligible equipment there. So sorry, Sam, you're going to jump in.
Oh yeah, I'll take the prescriptive eligibility. So again, so this is all of our category 2s, 2A, 2B, 2E. The total system capacity for heating capacity has to be less than 300,000 BTU, and then we went over the 100 to 120% of building heating load eligibility. All of these need to be on the NEEP cold climate heating list, or our QPL for the full load air to water heat pumps. And all of these details can be found in the program manual. So for ground source, again, the 300,000 BTU stands. We want 100 to 120% of the building heating load, but the remaining 10%, if a ground source system can only get to 90, can be satisfied by an air source heat pump equipment. And that air source heat pump is eligible for a rebate as well, just not at the ground source rate. Have to be clear on that. And then all ground loops must comply with all of the IGSPA standards, NYDEC and NYC requirements. What doesn't qualify? We don't do like-for-like replacements. So if you've got an old heat pump and you want to do a new one, I'm sorry, we can't provide an incentive for that. Currently, prescriptive partial load projects are not eligible. There is some eligibility through the custom pathway for larger projects, but just a general house with a standard heat pump, it has to meet the full building heating load. And then as the Clean Heat program is funded by utilities, we can't support projects outside of any of our service territories. So if a customer has a municipal electric account or is in PSEG electric territory, we can't provide incentives to them. Any projects with wheels, we can't do mobile projects right now. The structure has to be a permanent building. And then lastly, projects cannot receive gas incentives and clean heat rebate. We don't require decommissioning of existing equipment through the rest of state program. Con Ed is a little bit different. So I know sometimes customers are getting a new gas appliance. We cannot provide a simultaneous rebate. So if you have a customer who wants to do both, it's one or the other. So for our custom eligibility, these are for larger projects, the 300,000 BTU or multifamily buildings above 5 units. Projects are generally for full load heating systems, but we do have a partial load option with some stipulations that 50% of the annual building heating load is covered, fossil fuel energy consumption must be reduced, and then we have technology eligibility requirements. I know there are some types of equipment that don't quite work well with full load applications. So we do have some flexibility built in for that. And then for heat pump water heaters, for the residential prescriptive flat rate program, those are UEF rated heat pump water heaters, and they must be Energy Star certified. And then we also provide incentives for de-superheaters and water-to-water heat pumps added to ground loops. And these are all a flat rate. So our incentive structure categories aren't quite as clean as we like. But for prescriptive, it is per 10,000 BTU, or and when you get to custom, it is $1 per MMBTU of annual energy savings. So it's size for smaller equipment and savings for these larger projects. We also launched this past year a $1 per dwelling unit incentive for multifamily that are greater than 5 units. So for those, for multifamily space and water heating applications, we do provide the flat rate incentive. I hope it's easier for contractors to navigate and customers to understand. And I'll sit on this for a second in case anybody wants to take a photo. Yes.
Question. So with like hybrid heat pump water heaters, if they're doing a project and there's, I think it's like $750 rebate that's currently going on, does that stack on top of this?
Those do not stack. So it's if a customer is doing a space heating project and a water heating project, we treat those separate. So I mean, I guess they do kind of stack, but. So here are our incentive rates. I thought this would be a little bit bigger. For National Grid, NYSEG, and RG&E, these are the new incentive rates that will be effective on March 1st. We are raising them fairly significantly, and they'll be in effect through the end of the year, or at least through September.
And I'll speak for NYSEG and RG&E as well. For NYSEG, similar increases, especially categories 2 through 2E. It's like I think it's a 25% increase. And for RG&E as well, we're only increasing the heat pump water heater rebates. So that's going from $700 to $900. Midstream would be $1,000. The incentive remains the same for the customer. It's $900. But for the midstream, $50 goes to the contractor and $50 goes to the distributor. And those are March 1st effective dates.
And again, our custom incentive rates are also increasing for National Grid, and I actually don't think yours are changing, but they are changing in National Grid territory. We've got a slightly higher per dwelling unit rate, and across the board, we've increased the $1 per MMBTU payout. Yes.
So just a quick question on the effective date. They do an installation on February 28th. Paperwork goes in on March 3rd.
I think we said application date is what we're accepting.
Okay.
I'll double check on that for you though.
I just
The
wondered
exact
like, what the
language.
look back period might be.
Yeah.
If there's like a 30-day, 60-day, or day.
Yeah. We'll I'll confirm that
To see if
after.
it's tied to the installation or the.
It's installation date. That's what we.
Installation date is what they based.
Yeah.
Okay.
Couldn't remember what we wrote in the program announcement, but yeah. So it'll be install date.
Okay.
And yeah, and I think we sent a few emails around as well to contractors stating this maybe last week. So people should be aware.
And just to be clear, the space and water heating you can do together. So if you have a central space or central water heating system for a building and then have like in-unit space heatings, you can get, in our case, the $2,000 and the $500 per dwelling unit that those equipment apply to. Or you could go through the midstream program and get an individual in-unit heat pump water heater that way. I'm going to hand it to Ray to talk about incentive layering.
Yes. So there's a lot of different programs out there. Just real quick guidance here. So projects completed for the end of this year may be eligible for different NYSERDA programs along with clean heat. And so just as a sort of as a rule of thumb, you can apply for rebates from both. However, you cannot stack incentives for the same measure. So if you get a clean heat rebate for a heat pump and then NYSERDA is funding design work or some other efficiency measure, that is okay. But you cannot stack incentives between clean heat and NYSERDA for a heat pump installation together. So no stacking for the same measure, but you can, where otherwise applicable, utilize NYSERDA funds and clean heat rebates. Just one note to that end, Empower Plus projects cannot be stacked with clean heat. And so there's some project caps that you can, I think this language is pulled straight from the manual here, but any combined funding can't exceed, for market rate participants, 70% of the total project cost. And then for low to moderate income participants, it can't exceed the total project cost. So just a note there, but yes, cannot be, if you take one thing from this session, incentives that are stacked cannot be combined for the same measure. Must be different measures for stacking.
Does this go for nonprofits and small businesses receiving other grant funding on like the federal level or state level?
It's case by case. Not that it's necessarily case by case, but we're getting new sort of different cases every day that we with the amount of programs out there. So it's more so we don't want to speak in a total absolute when it comes to that. But if you do have projects in mind, reach out to us or NYSERDA to confirm either way how that grant might be affected by potential rebates from the clean heat side.
National Grid is currently currently has a limited time offer running for our geothermal contractors. If you submit a signed customer agreement between January 1st and 3/14, where the customer commitment was before March 1st, you get a increased incentive rate. So our rate currently is sitting at $1,500 per 10,000 MMBTU. And it goes up to $3,000 for these projects. These projects will also be eligible for a customer contractor bonus incentive of $2,000. So it's split $1,500 to the customer, $500 to the contractor. And you can find all of this calculation in our prescriptive calculator. Again, this is the deadline is coming up on this, so if any of you are geothermal contractors, I hope you're out there selling projects.
Questions?
A good break.
I feel like we've been fielding questions as we went, so.
It was a reference to console and non-console. What would be a non-console installation?
Anybody?
I don't want to attempt to give the technical definition on that.
We can touch
Yeah.
base after. We'll
There's a couple that we
close
can,
the loop on
yeah,
that.
no pun.
All right, so I'll take over for QA/QC inspections, specific to contractors. So when you enter the program, You enter under the provisional status, and your first 3 projects will be inspected. And if you pass 3 project inspections in a row, you would be moved to full status. So your rate of inspections would change once you are a full status contractor. You can find the rates here specific to each category. This is our QA/QC process is done by a third-party TRC. They complete the inspections after the install, and the incentives are paid. I think it might be different for National Grid now. I think they're pulling a different process. But for us in particular, inspection process is as follows. Category 2s receive 7.5% of their projects are pulled if you're a full status contractor. Category 2A is also 7.5%, and Category 2B is 10%. And customers are emailed a document after the project is completed and they've received their incentives that gives a contact information for TRC. And the customer can reach directly out to TRC and request an inspection. And TRC will send somebody out, take a look at the equipment, take a look at the install, make sure everything lines up. If there are errors, TRC will reach out to ICF, our other third-party implementer, and ICF will reach out to the contractor and close the loop and send the contractors back out to the field.
How long can a customer, after the installation, take that option?
We've seen different timeframes. I don't think there's a specific time frame in mind. We've seen it from a couple weeks to a month to a couple months. So I don't think there is a timeline required. Let me go to the next one. And this is what the inspectors are looking for. So this is the document that TRC is looking at. And contractors, feel free to familiarize yourselves with this as well. It's a good kind of checklist to go through as you're installing the equipment. These are the things that TRC will look for specifically. They won't go out of their way to look for anything else. They'll stick to this checklist, and if there's errors, they'll reach out to the contractor to have them fixed. And here's the commissioning checklist as well. This is not a required document, but is helpful and can be found on Clean Heat Connect. So I'm hoping we're able to locate that as well. And there's a link to this, and I'd be happy to provide it to anybody if there's questions after. And on to the final slide here, which is what we're expecting for this year and beyond this year. So we'll have our new energy efficiency order in the coming months. We don't have a specific date yet, but that will kind of shape what clean heat looks like in 2026 through 2030. Like I said, we don't have that, but as soon as we do, we'll be sure to, I think we'll speak on it at a participating contractors PC&IP quarterly webinar at some point, depending on timing. We are also launching our contractor badging. So this takes into account scores on QA/QC, application process, and on our Find a Contractor tool that customers can use. It'll display a little badge, either gold, silver, or bronze, and it just bases everything off of contractor participation and their activity in the program. We'll also be launching a revised program manual that should be coming out in March, and we'll have an annual report published on April 1st as well, outlining our work in 2024. So that we'll have total project installs, incentives, and savings for all the utilities in New York. And our PC&IP call. PC&IP call will be March 13th. And with that, I think we are done with the presentation. So any additional questions?
Or feedback as we develop the program for the future. I know, like we said, we're still waiting on our marching orders, but we'd love to get your input.
Maybe if we'll find this on the website, but is there an emphasis on having low leakage tight houses? In other words, if there were, like, say, a house that came up and right so was very loose, would that still be passed? Because then you're spending more money, and the performance isn't going to be as great. The homeowner's still going to spend more money than necessary if that house were buttoned up.
It's certainly something we're addressing. It would still pass by the letter of the law in the program manual now, as long as you meet that 100% building heating load, and the manual J aligns with the actual conditions of the home.
Okay.
That would pass through the program. There is an emphasis on weatherization. I know that. NYS and RG&E, we have a weatherization program running this year. I don't want to speak on that because it's not necessarily my program, but I can certainly put you in connection with that rebate team.
Well, that would be my feedback as
Yeah.
a BPA certified auditor.
Mhm.
That you're using up money that may not be renewed in the
That's
foreseeable future by having larger, more expensive installations when energy efficiency measures. I mean, I've been in homes that were 10,000 square feet and used a 1.5 ton heat pump. I mean, the refrigerator practically heated that place up all winter. So that's all possible. But not if it's like whatever the house happens to be, it's gonna be okay. And we'll just spend the money we have while we have it.
and I think that I don't want to speak on the order or what's going to come of it. I would assume there's going to be some level of weatherization in there, so
Okay,
keep an eye on that.
that would really be great.
Yeah.
To just drive that, because that's essential. in my view.
Yeah, we share that same sentiment for sure.
So you expecting that order before the March 14th call?
I'm not sure. Any other? Yeah.
Do you do a phased approach, meaning if I have a customer with an oil boiler and an existing NEAP air source heat pump heating like a great room, could I just keep that existing NEAP air source heat pump and then put a new NEAP air source heat pump with the boiler? And then
It's tricky. Yeah, because that would technically be a partial install, I guess. We take those on case by case as well, because we have done phased approaches like that in the past.
calculator couldn't handle that.
I think it might be able to. I don't want to speak for calculator. There's a path. If you're going full electric, we'll do our best to find a path. Anybody else?
With the refrigeration changes coming in for 2026 for what can install, as far as like warranty side, is that if something that gets installed 2025 and breaks next year, is that gonna mess with any of the program funding or homeowner eligibility with if a unit gets swapped out with the newer refrigerant one?
I'm not totally sure. Ray, do you know? Because I know you were looking at the refrigerant.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but I don't think there's 100% clear guidance on a scenario like that. So that might be one where similar. We would work on a case by case basis for something like that. Yeah. So to answer your question, short answer, I don't believe there's anything official that would kind of cover your scenarios in terms of guidance today. But if and when, because there's always those scenarios that come up, we can work with those as they come.
The units installed right now, about 20, should be, there'll be, partially available to use for like those music products. There should be just.
So that will R410A.
Yeah, so, there'll be, the state will still allow the sale, you can't produce new.
Yeah, it can't be manufactured.
So
Yeah.
The main key will be recapturing and reused R410A, but the state does understand that there will be units being installed, which will be maintained for the useful life of the product, which is 15 years, so there is a phased in approach there, where you just can't produce new R410A, so.
All right. Oh, no.
So a question I have, going back to the beginning of the presentation, regarding the topic of contractors becoming a participant. Just as I'd like to see how like 4 different news media will cover the same event, so I can try to figure out where the real answer lies. I'm asking every interested party this question at this conference, because I'll ask you from the standpoint of the utility program manager, what do you see or what are you hearing as the primary barriers for contractors entering the program?
I think there's a lot of administrative tasks that are required. A lot of paperwork is generally what we hear, and we're trying to streamline that. We have a great team of account managers as well that assist with the application process. Certainly streamlining it, certainly not trying to add more documents that are required for the program. So for me, that's what I hear the most. And I don't know if You have any other?
Same. I would say it's both. It's on the upfront applying to be a part of the program, and then the bandwidth to continue that for project applications once you're in the program too. Is something that contractors have to deal with. And so I think we've gotten a lot better since the launch of the program in 2020. But we're always making improvements to that process as well. But I would say that that's most common. And just to expand on that, it's not necessarily just to be a part of the program, but the bandwidth to manage the paperwork for applications once you're in.
We try not to change things very frequently. We just have our March and September program annuals, so we hope that keeps things, at least the knowledge and the updates, a little bit easier to manage. But I understand that can be frustrating.
Yeah, because you'll hear 1,000 different programs out there, so it's tough to keep it straight. And we're trying to streamline it, as much as possible. So, yeah. Question.
What are the common application errors?
I would say. ICF.
So, hi, I'm Ari Echo. I'm the program manager at ICF for the CP program. We also have Tim Walsh here and Matt Ziano. He left. He was here. We have an ICF table too, guys. So if you do have questions or you want clarification on any of these things, feel free to come and visit us this week. So as far as application errors and things that come and go, I would say that acknowledgement form that they brought up before, the utility specific one, so it has to say the rebate amounts that are on there, that prescriptive calculator is going to break it down for you to the penny. But if you don't use it, or you're using like a version that was saved on your computer, a year ago and not using the current one, so the rates might not be right, then the amount that you're gonna have on there is gonna be wrong. And if you submit it with the wrong amount and the customer signed it, you aren't allowed to just take a pen if it's the wrong amount, and we tell you it's the wrong amount, and fix it and put it back in again. You've got to go get it re-signed again. So that's pretty common. I would say design temperatures also is a real big one. You have contractors that have been doing this for, 10 years, 20, 30 years, and everybody knows the design temps and everything else. But again, that prescriptive calculator, if you use it for nothing else, you can pop in the project zip code and it's going to give you these suggested design temps to use for our program. Matt had mentioned before, there's some wiggle room there. You can go plus or minus 5 degrees from whatever design temp it pulls. So if it pulls to 5 degrees, you can design between 0 and 10. But let's say that you want to be 0 and you design it at -5 and you do your loads at -5, you size your equipment at -5, you submit it at -5, it's not going to qualify at -5. So that's something that we see. You have to revise those loads. It's potentially going to change how your equipment is going to qualify for the program, right? So if your heating ratio, if you just ballparked it and it came in at, 101%, but now you go and revise everything and it comes in at 95, you may need to relook at your equipment. You may need to play with those design temperatures again. So I would say those are the things that we kind of see most often. But when you do enroll as a contractor in the program, you are assigned an account manager for your region. There's all kinds of trainings and things that you can take advantage of, and your account manager helps to onboard you in the process. Even when you get, pretty fluent at it, if you have questions that come up throughout, or you're dealing with something new, or you have a new staff member on your team that needs to learn, we'll help you with that as you kind of go along. So we're there to help.
And we do hold monthly webinars that kind of go over the.
I can hear you.
Sorry, we do hold monthly webinars that go over the application process for contractors and the submission through the online portal. So we do have two separate monthly webinars.
Expanding training.
Online
we do them, but we post them all the time. So they're in newsletters, we post them online, they're usually shared with Clean Heat Connect. But like Tim said, there's 2 that we do every month. So one is program overview, where it just really covers how the incentives work, what are the incentives, what's the paperwork that you need, all of our contact info. And the other one is the contractor portal, where you submit your applications. Now you've got all your project stuff together and you're ready to put it in. It's an hour, 45 minutes or so. Now how do you actually put that through the portal?
Are you at a table?
Yeah, we have a table
Yeah,
up.
there's a black tablecloth that says ICF.
Done by like
See you later.
done by done by the color.
We have candy, so. Yeah.
If the customer doesn't want to decommission, they want to stay with their high efficiency natural gas furnace, for example. As long as the heat pump that's being installed meets the manual J requirements, you don't have a problem with like furnace, gas furnace, and heat pump installation, right?
It'll, yeah, it's a lesser incentive. It's category 2
Yeah.
technically, but yeah, still eligible.
The heat pump does have to be set as the
Primary source, yeah.
So that, the fossil fuel can be left in as a backup, I mean, emergency backup, but the heat pump needs to be the primary heating source, and the customer needs to invest what they're installing to do that. The program doesn't want to see, currently, obviously, everyone knows that gas rates are a little bit cheaper right now, so you didn't want to see the customer switching to the gas when it's cheaper, going to the heat pump when in the shorter season. Makes sense. So,
It's either the acoustics or my hearing, but
sorry,
I'm
the customer does need to attest that the
pearls.
heat pump is set as a primary heating source. So
Okay,
there can be a fossil fuel backup left in place, but the heat pump needs to be, the customer needs to attest that they're installing the heat pump as a primary heating source.
oh, okay.
And just to clarify, Con Edison has different requirements than this.
Edison
We,
does require.
Yeah.
Or they do have a integrated control, but it's a far lesser incentive.
Yeah.
So currently, when searching for a participating contractor on the DEP website, VRF is not distinguished from ASHP, and not all ASHP contractors install VRFs. So I guess my questions are like a request. Would you be able to have that distinguished?
We can look into that. Yeah, because I think there's a couple find a contractor tools. One of them lives on NYSERDA's website, but yes, we can certainly explore that.
any other feedback or wish list items as we start planning for 26? That might have been a dangerous question.
Yeah, right.
All right.
All right, thank you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.